Could the Lakers make a trade for Russell Westbrook this offseason? Today we're going to be talking about a way it could happen. First of all, let's look at this post from LeBron James last night on Instagram. The caption was, "We know y'all hate and don't appreciate, but we just laugh it off. But one thing you will do is respect it/us." And I think basically what he's trying to say here is Westbrook deserves his respect for what he's been doing this season. I mean, Westbrook's been making history with all these triple-doubles. He's had like 13 in the month of April. He's probably going to pass Oscar Robertson soon for the all-time triple-double record. And then also Anthony Davis was interrupting Westbrook's post-game interview. Like, Westbrook looked super happy and stuff. So with all this going on, I saw everybody talking about, oh my gosh, they want Westbrook to join the Lakers and all this stuff. And I don't know if that's true. Maybe they're just trying to give Westbrook his respect and everything. But there is a possibility the Lakers could get a deal done without giving up too much. All right, so first of all, let's look at what Russell Westbrook was traded for last offseason. Westbrook was traded to the Houston Rockets, or from the Houston Rockets, in exchange for John Wall and a future first-round pick. That's it. And keep in mind, John Wall was coming off of 2 years of injury, so people didn't really know what he was going to be like once he got back. And John Wall's also on a similar contract to Westbrook, so it's obvious that when Westbrook requested a trade, Houston had trouble getting the job done and finding a great trade. So today we're going to talk about a potential trade for Westbrook to the Lakers. So here's the deal. So Dennis Schroder would get signed and traded to the Wizards. Same thing with Montrez. So basically you would re-sign these guys to new contracts and trade them to the other team, right? Then you would also send over Alfonzo McKinnie. So the way this would work is the Wizards would basically be signing Schroder and Harrell and then also be getting Alfonzo McKinnie so that the salary caps match up in the deal. And the Wizards would also get a first-round pick. That would be protected, lottery protected, just so that the Lakers wouldn't be giving up a pick that's too valuable because we don't know what their team will look like in the year 2026. So you're giving up two guys that could have left in free agency, Alfonzo McKinnie, and one protected pick. That's it. I think that this deal would be an absolute steal for the Los Angeles Lakers because Russell Westbrook is incredibly talented and he is a great player. He wants to prove that he can win. He's got something to prove this year. His trade value isn't incredibly high because, people think he's not a winner and everything, but he can prove it on the Los Angeles Lakers. And if this doesn't work out, maybe you trade him in the future. And yeah. So also, guys, if you're enjoying the video, please consider subscribing to my channel. Anyways, let's continue on. Russell Westbrook. He has been a player who, he puts up all these great stats. He won an MVP, but he's not a winner. That's what everybody has to say about him. And I think that LeBron had a good point saying, Westbrook deserves his respect because he does. He is a historically good player. This year, he's averaging 22 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists, roughly. 21.8 points, 11 boards, 11 assists. That is absolutely amazing. He's a point guard too, by the way, and he's not respected like some of these other guys are. It seems like Westbrook, all he gets is hate, talking about he can't win rings. But I think playing alongside players like LeBron James and Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook could prove that he can win rings, and he could also go out there and he wouldn't have to carry as much of a load as he has in the past like he did with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He could take a smaller role but still have similar contributions to what he did to those other teams. All right, so in this trade, you're obviously giving up Dennis Schroder, and I don't see this as that bad of a thing because Schroder, he could just leave this offseason for absolutely nothing. And you don't want that to happen. If Schroder leaves this team, you want to find a sign and trade deal for him. You don't want him to just walk off, leave the team. You don't get any type of trade because he could do that, right? And you don't want that to happen. So I think that this is a good scenario. You lose Schroder, but you get back a point guard who is undisputably better than Dennis Schroder at this point in time. So I think that that's something really, really good. Adding a guy like Russell Westbrook, and all you're really giving up is Montrez Harrell, Schroder, and McKinnie. And Schroder and Harrell were two guys that could have just left anyways. So it's not that big of a deal, right? And with Dennis Schroder, he is a great point guard, but getting Russell Westbrook would be a really, really big upgrade in my opinion. Now let's go ahead, let's move on, and let's talk about Montrezl Harrell. Montrezl Harrell is one of the best bench players in the NBA. No doubt about that. He is absolutely amazing, right? He's a great player. He fits in his role, and he doesn't seem to really complain about the role he has. But this offseason, Montrezl Harrell could also be a player who opts out of his player option, and he decides, you know what, I'm out of here. He leaves the team. So really, all you're giving up in this deal are two guys who could potentially leave the team anyway. And also Alfonso McKinney's involved in the deal as well, but he only has 1 year left on his contract, and he hasn't gotten significant playing time this year. Montrez, it would hurt to give him up, but you also have other big men that you could get back, right? You could re-sign Andre Drummond. You've still got Gasol under contract. You still, of course, got Anthony Davis. So there's 3 other bigs that you could have on the team, and maybe you could look to sign some other guys in free agency if you need more depth at the center or power forward spots. And with losing Alfonso McKinney, like I said earlier, he didn't get to play too much this season. He's had a few pretty solid games, though. Like, there was a game where I think he had like 10 points and 8 boards or something like that. He's had some pretty decent games overall this season, but he would help make the salaries match in the deal. And I think that you would really want to include him if that meant getting this deal done. So, yeah, Russell Westbrook to the Los Angeles Lakers. I think that this would be really cool, because you would get one of the best playmakers, one of the most explosive players in the NBA, alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You would have some of the best you would have the best playmaking in the league with LeBron and also Russell Westbrook. That'd be absolutely crazy. I mean, they could probably combine for like 20 assists a night. It'd be crazy, right? And then you also have an elite interior big man in Anthony Davis. He could step out. He could shoot jumpers too. Anthony Davis is very good as well. Then you've also got some of your other young guys like Talen Horton-Tucker. You still got KCP on the team as well. You've got Kyle Kuzma. I mean, I think it'd be pretty scary if you add
one of those players that if I need to defend at a high level, I can do that too. If I need to score at a high level, I can do that. Pass, I can do that. Rebound, I can do that. Want me to coach, I can do that too. I just feel like I can do everything.
All right.
Matt, you heard the man. Would you like to be coached by Russell Westbrook?
Probably not coached. I would have loved to play with someone like Russ. I mean, if you're going to war, Russ is someone you guys take. I think he's undervalued and underappreciated, and he's made the triple-double look so easy that I don't think we appreciate how actually hard they are. Now, I mean, he's on the verge of breaking Oscar Robinson's record. I'm not sure how many, I think 12 or 11 away from breaking his record, but Russ is one of those guys, no matter what, you know what kind of effort you're going to get from when he's on the court, and he took a bad situation. People thought, man, is he going there to end his career? And turned it into a situation where, 6 wins in a row. I think they're in the 10th spot right now and playing really well, him and Brad Beal.
So, Russ has always been able to do all of that. He's always had that full game. The question was, does he know how to pick his spots? Does he know how to do all of it in one game and when he should do all of it? And I think as he gets older, and we've had a lot of questions about whether his athleticism will translate as he gets older, that's what the key for him is going to be in the second part of his career here, in the latter stages of his career. Can he defend and also score? Can he defend and also have enough energy to get those 20 rebounds like he did last night? In the past, he's put so much on himself to score, to be the #1 guy, to carry the team. And I think a lot of his coaches and a lot of his former teamers would say, hey, you don't need to do all of that.
All of it, right.
We need you to save yourself, right? We don't need you.
We don't need you to try that three-pointer.
Yeah.
Well, as you get, can you downshift and still have, the same impact on the game as you had when you were in fact? Because Russ has always been a guy that's played 100 miles an hour, So now you're seeing him picking and choosing his spots, and it shows. You still see how explosive he is because he's not running 100 miles an hour now. He's taking his time and pacing himself, and then when he has to take off, he still has it. So, again, I think we need to put more respect on Russ's name, but he's had a great season.
It's so interesting because, Ramona, you remember that Royce Young piece from a few years ago where he talked about some of the ways that Russ is kind of famously inflexible, has to park in the same spot every day, has to have his sandwiches cut in a certain diagonal direction. But that being said, he has shown tremendous flexibility for what his team needs when. And that was actually one of the most impressive things to me about his MVP season. The way he stepped up his performance in the clutch, the way he shifted his shot profile in that season. And then we saw some regression from that of being willing to be that flexible. Matt, what is the journey as you age in this league to kind of accept, hey, this is changing for me and I need to make changes too?
It's important, and you have to, like you said, the last part, you have to adapt your game to where you're at as an individual. Obviously, our minds, the older we get, the sharper our minds are, but just our bodies don't follow, and that's one thing Kobe said. He's like, my mind is sharp as ever, just my body can't keep up, you know what I mean? So I think Russ is one of those guys, probably the most explosive point guard we've ever seen in the history of the game. How is he going to be able to, his game is going to change with his age, and he's doing a great job. I mean, I think that obviously the points per game are down, but everything else is up. And to think a point guard grabbing 20 rebounds, like I said, I just don't think we appreciate that because it.
Dance. His heels with a great feed inside to Craig.
The point guard is back at it again, and the Suns take a 2-0 lead. Out with the 23, in with the 6. We are counting down Bron's top 6 plays in number 6. And the coaching carousel is up and running. 4 teams need coaches now. We will visit the rumor mill. So don't look away, because a full hour of The Jump starts right now. Welcome back to The Jump. I am Rachel Nichols. Today I am joined by our senior writer, host of the Low Post podcast, who I terrified just a few minutes ago. We'll get into that later. And the 11-time All-Star, 2-time champ, 2021 Hall of Fame honoree, Chris Bosh, joining the show. Chris, I'm just going to call you that. That's how I'm going to address you just in the middle of a conversation. We'll be having lunch, and I'll just be like, Hall of Famer Chris Bosh, would you like some ketchup? Like that. That's how I'm going to do it from now on.
No complaints.
We're going to preview the games tonight later in the show, but first, let's talk about last night. Chris Paul and the Suns beat the Nuggets by 25 points last night. Remember, Chris was battling shoulder issues in the first round against the Lakers. The man looked very healthy last night. That leads us to today's magic moment, brought to you by Walt Disney World Resort. CP3, 17 points, 15 assists. And oh, by the way, no turnovers last night. He has 3 career playoff games of at least 15 points and 15 assists with no turnovers. All other players in the NBA, everybody else, only has 4 such games total together. Individual turnovers were tracked since 1978. So this is very good. Chris Bosh, Hall of Famer Chris Bosh, what is CP showing you this postseason?
Well, I mean, he's a winner. He's always been a winner. If you look at his track record, every team that he has went to has had some success, and he gets the nod because it's very extremely difficult to win a championship. But he's showing us, he's showing all of us how good they can be, and that they want to win, that they want to win a championship, that this is what they're in here to do. This is what their mind frame is. The time is now, and he's playing like it. I mean, he's playing phenomenally. They move the ball as a team phenomenally well. They have great size. They have balance. Their bench scoring is very good. I think they can make a run at the championship.
So not just happy to be here, Zach Lowe.
The Suns are not just happy to be here. I mean, Chris Paul, we've said it before on the show.
Yes.
If you want to win basketball games, get Chris Paul on your team. It's infallible.
Yep.
So what he's showing, he's still the point guard. His health, his shoulder looks better and better every game. He showed in game 1 he can do that thing where he feels out the game for 3 quarters, and when you need him to score in the 4th quarter, he can get you some buckets. And he's playing remarkably well, and in 20 years, people are going to be sifting through old trades and be like, this must be a typo that the Thunder got 2 first-round picks to swap Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook. How does that make sense? He's an all-time great player, and the Suns are proving they are not to be trifled with by anyone.
Yeah, and look, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think there's so many ways Chris Paul is a fantastic example for the younger guys in the league, and really, frankly, for a lot of people in their life situations. Not everything is going to go the exact way you thought it was going to go, the way you might want it to go. He never was anything but professional with the Thunder. Never complained, never held out, never said you better deal me. Walked into that team, was great with the younger guys, and proved to everyone, hey, you might think that I'm done. I am not finished, and I'm going to do the work to show you. And he got himself in this situation and then has done the work since then. So I think some guys sometimes in the middle of their careers, and this is different because Chris is obviously a future Hall of Famer, it doesn't apply to everyone, but you can end up in a little bit of no man's land with the team where, say, this isn't quite the right fit for you or the right situation for you. And he is demonstrating once again to the younger guys in the league, hey, you can keep putting in the time and the work and get where you want to go. It's very, very impressive. And looking at the West bracket, the Suns are up 2-0 on the Nuggets. They have now won 5 games in a row this postseason. So as we look at the field here, Hall of Famer Chris Bosh just said, hey, I can see them getting to the finals. What do you see?
Why couldn't they get to the finals? They're up 2-0 on the Nuggets. The Nuggets look absolutely gassed. That's how you know they're going home. At least they have that going for them. But last night was not a competitive game. Mike Conley's injured. We'll see what happens in that series. That series is in its early stages. Both of those teams, Utah and LA, are really, really good. But you just look at the Suns now and say, why not? Yeah. Why not? If Chris Paul's going to play like this, Devin Booker's a superstar. Ayton has been one of the best stories of the entire playoffs, playing up into his career best levels, and like they're deep, they're well coached. Monty Williams has done an absolutely amazing job. I voted for him for Coach of the Year. Why not?
Yeah, Chris.
I mean, Zach said it all right there. I mean, you know, you always want to see the intensity. You want to see the hunger during this time of year. Them winning the games that they needed to win, getting those road wins against the Lakers. I think those are signs of a really good team. You have to prove that you're serious during this time of year, right? So, you know, taking care of business on your home court, going up 2-0, not only going up 2-0, but dominating in those games. I think it shows how hungry they are, how motivated they are. And like Zach said, their coaching staff is second to none. Monty Williams has done a phenomenal job this year. And I was saying earlier as well, I remember when as soon as Chris Paul signed, him and Book were in there getting up shots in the same night, right? So this has been something coming. It's been brewing for a long time. I kind of compare it to when Tom Brady was out there running routes or passing routes to his guys with the Buccaneers. You know, we will see that work pay off. So it's starting to come to fruition for them now.
Chris, what do you know and have seen in situations in your NBA career where you have a team where the team itself, the franchise, has not been in the playoffs at all in any way? Oh, look, here is that film Chris is talking about, by the way. So awesome. Franchise not been in the playoffs in a decade. You have a bunch of guys, key guys on this team, starters, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker. This is their first playoff experience. So normally when that happens, we don't see guys like that advance to the NBA Finals. But of course, they have Chris Paul. They have an experienced coach. There are other voices on that team. What do you think, or what have you seen in your past about younger guys who are able to catch up that quickly, kind of ahead of schedule?
I mean, I think that's where Monty Williams and his leadership comes in. I was watching a couple of their games, and he would always say, hey, this is the playoffs. This is how it is, right, guys? He has prepared them. They have prepared themselves mentally to be in this situation. And you can really tell that these are things that they talk about. We have to show toughness. We will be challenged. We definitely have to put ourselves in a place to where we can win a championship. And the part I love about that clip is I want people to see that clip. As long as this team is still playing, for anybody that wants to be successful out there, watch that clip. That was the same day he joined the team. And I think he was in LA or something like that. They joined together in Phoenix and started getting shots up. And that's when I was like, okay, these guys are serious. So we'll see what happens this year. Yeah,
here's my last Chris Paul stat before we move on to the Nuggets side of thing. How about this for company? Only Chris Paul, Oscar Robertson, and Isaiah Thomas, you know Zeke, that Isaiah Thomas, have averaged 20 points per game and 8 playoffs per game in the playoffs. That's it. That is the club. That is a pretty damn good list, and it is not surprising to see Chris Paul's name on there. All right, let's go to the Nuggets side of things. Head coach Michael Malone said, remember he said his team had a, quote, soft mentality after game 1? Well, after game 2, he was just as critical of his team. Take a listen.
I just told our players it's embarrassing that a guy that hasn't been able to play for 7 weeks was out there leaving it all on the line. And I don't think anybody else did. This was from myself all the way through the last player. You know, we're walking out of here with our heads held down, rightfully so. And there's a reason that their crowd is yelling Suns in 4 and they're calling for a sweep, because if we play like this back in Denver, this is going to be a really quick series. You could say that pretty much for the Phoenix Suns roster. They've had their way with us on both ends of the court. I felt we quit tonight, which is something you never want to see. So I guess for game 3, I'm just going to try to find guys that will at least go out there and leave it all on the line. I may have a hard time coming up with 5 guys that fill that, but these 2 games, these second halves, have really been disappointing, and that's an understatement.
That's a lot. And again, as we point out, the second game in a row, he has really team and talking about changing lineups. Chris, what do you make of that?
Well, they're in a tight spot. Sometimes a coach's job is to motivate his or her players. What you don't want in this instance, and we'll see how they respond, you don't want Denver, you don't want Mike to lose his team. Mike doesn't want to lose his team. That's what I'm trying to say. Because once that happens, it makes it tougher. And I mean, the fact that he's just saying, I want to put 5 guys together, I mean, they've got to do some soul searching right now. Again, they're going home. Maybe they'll feel better and get that renewed sense of confidence. But he's definitely challenging them right now. I hope that he knows his guys, and it's a big game. I mean, that's what the playoffs are about. Down 2-0. You probably didn't think you'd be down 2-0, and you just got beat really bad in both of those games. So we'll see how they respond. This is all about their response and how they'll handle it as players.
Yeah, the Nuggets have always responded to Michael Malone. Every comment he's made, every time he's pushed him, he's done a great job. But Chris is right. That I may not be able to find 5 guys, or I got to find 5 guys. That was a jaw dropper, and there is nowhere to go from soft and quit. There is no other verbal negative comment to be made. And I will say, there was a moment in the third quarter, I think, where Facundo Campazzo was rotating to yet another wide open Phoenix corner 3, and you could see him as he was halfway through his rotation put his head down and and that, I guess that could be construed as like a team that was broken, but you know what? The Suns broke them. That is the Suns generating one wide open 3 after another, and the Nuggets just saying, we're out of answers. And Jokic looks gassed, and he's had to carry a huge load without Jamal Murray. Michael Porter Jr. is hurt. But if they quit, if they've been playing quote-unquote soft, it's because Phoenix has taken it to them, and they are out of answers right now, and they got to find some.
And look, we've had a great celebration of Nikola Jokic in the past couple of days, the MVP being announced, and he has earned every minute of it. But earning that, doing that work, especially after Jamal Murray got hurt, it's exhausting. I mean, the reason why it was an accomplishment to watch him do what he did was because it is hard. And now we may be seeing the effect, but again, after Michael Jordan. LeBron James, back to number 6. He will make it official after the release of Space Jam 2 this July, a movie in which he is also wearing number 6. LeBron, of course, originally wore number 6 as a member of the Heat from 2010 to 2014. So in honor of the number change, it's time to run it back to LeBron's top 6 plays as number 6. Jumping over John Lucas here.
That's number 6?
That is number 6, friend.
Oh, my God.
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
We don't need the freeze frame for John Lucas. That's not nice.
Number 5, throwing down a pair of lobs from D-Wade on Christmas Day in Staples.
That was a good one.
Those sleeve uniforms are so terrible.
They are not good.
Yeah, I did not care for those. Those sleeve ones. I didn't know what we were doing. What were we doing?
Way up to throw it down on Paul Millsap.
That was a good one.
I mean, Paul Millsap's just trying to play defense.
He is, and yet look at this man.
Yeah, you got to get there a lot earlier. That was.
You do.
That's what made him tough.
Number 3, beating the Dubs at the buzzer.
Pretty good.
We were so glad that he hit that shot because this was the last game before All-Star break, and I believe we were down 2. Yeah, we were down 2. And then so he hit that shot. We were so glad. I was so glad he hit that shot.
Meet and splitter at the rim here.
That's an all-timer.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
But not the biggest block of his career.
I like
the biggest block is a Heat.
I like that he just stopped playing.
Right. And you knew this was going to be number 1, right?
Poor Jet. No!
Okay, Chris, I always try to explain to people the emotion in this is for very good reason, right?
Yeah. You know, it can get competitive out there, and man, that was just an amazing play. We were down a lot of points, too. I remember that. We were down about 20 or 30 points, and that was one of the moves to start the comeback.
Well, look, when he dunked over him, Jason Terry at the time had a tattoo of a trophy on, I believe, his arm that he won over you guys. So, yeah, that dunk meant something. This is a big deal because LeBron has led the league in jersey sales for the last 3 years. And in fact, he has been at the top of the league in jersey sales for a lot longer than that in terms of that top group. And so when he changes his number, a lot of NBA fans buy new jerseys. A lot of the people watching this show, the numbers tell us, will be buying this new LeBron jersey. Chris, you had a front row seat for some of LeBron's greatest plays as number 6. What is your memory and reaction to him making this change?
I mean, look, you know, I understand why I have switched numbers before. I was looking for something. I was searching for something. I think there could be some transformation in that. And sometimes it's just, it changes things. There's a new level of excitement. Maybe he's trying to get back to a certain mode or mind frame that he was in when he was playing in Miami or just during that championship time. So, pretty sure one thing is guaranteed, that there will be a lot of jerseys sold. That'll be great for business and maybe for the Lakers too. Him getting back to some sort of mentality. He'll probably spend the summer searching for that. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing what type of player he's going to be and how he's gotten better as the player next year, because I know he's adding something.
Yeah, well, that is true. And look, some of it can be logistics too, right? He tried to change his number when Anthony Davis joined the team because AD, of course, wore 23 and wanted to keep it. And it was a little bit part of the wooing of Anthony Davis, right? But the league was like, you got to give us more notice because, again, he had the highest selling jersey and there's just too much with the production. There was not enough lead time. So I don't know if the plan was to always go to number 6, regardless of how this season went, and have AD be able to step up and take 23. With Space Jam 2 in the works. I mean, there's just like a lot of logistical things that go in here. And yet AD now says, I'm good. I'm going to keep my number. So who knows? Maybe this, though, as you say, Chris, will spur a little bit of a mental shift, too, which is always good. Change is good, people. Speaking of change, let's count them up and discuss the head coaching vacancies in the NBA right now. There are 4 of them: Portland, Boston, Orlando, and Indiana now. A few hot names on the market include Chauncey Billups, former Blazers coach Terry Stotts. Zach, in your opinion, which is the best vacancy out there right now? If you had your pick of these jobs, who would you choose?
I think it's got to be Boston. You have the 23-year-old superstar in Jason Tatum. Dame is 30 in Portland, going on 31, and the future feels a little rickety there. So it's got to be Boston. You also have Jaylen Brown. Some players will go there, maybe not the A-plus stars, but they've gotten some really good players there. If you want runway, it's Orlando because you'll have time. You're in a deep rebuild. But to win now and to win later, I think it's got to be Boston.
Agree with them. You know, they have the talent, the flexibility, the draft picks, the cap space. They're going to be able to make a run for extended years. You just have to handle that pressure. But I would say this: I want to challenge each organization, and I want to challenge the NBA as well. We have good young black coaches out there. We have Sam Cassell, Jason Kidd, amongst a plethora of young black men out there that have been in the game for a very long time. Chauncey Billups, another one. I would very much so like to see a high percentage of black men get hired this year. We've seen Steve Nash go straight to the top. We've seen Brad Stevens go from being a college coach to president of an organization, rightfully so. I'm sure those are brilliant guys, but I want to see black men getting a chance to be able to coach a team and have the shot at leading a team in the NBA.
Amen. And I think a lot of current players like the idea of not just having someone who looks like them and that they feel that they can relate to, but someone who's had playing experience. And I think that's a whole separate category of guys, regardless of what they look like, but who maybe need to get a little bit more of a shot too. And I know that Damian Lillard wanted Jason Kidd initially. He went on the record with that. That's not going to happen. But again, the idea, someone they can relate to. Dame especially, I think, feels like he wants someone who knows what it's like to have been out there. I'd also like to say, Chris, I'm going to add to what you just said and say, let's give some of the women on these benches a shot. And whether it's actually for the job or just the interview process so that they can go through, get the experience doing it. So when it is their turn and they've had enough coaching experience, they can wow them in an interview situation too. All of that stuff is important. Those opportunities are important. And we talked about it a little bit when Minnesota made a coaching change in the middle of the year. that was nothing against Chris. It just had to do with the process and the idea of, hey, this process needs to be more inclusive. It just does, because until you get in a room with someone, they may not be the person who looks like the owner or who looks like the general manager. They may knock your socks off. They might not be your friend from 20 years back, but they might knock your socks off. So the idea that some of the people who haven't gotten a shot to just even be in the conversation, that needs to change. Now it is 39 points. They were 39 points down.
49. 49.
Well, they were 49, but they finished at 39 points.
Oh, good for them.
So, yay! Not what you want. Milwaukee is going to need to make some definite adjustments in Game 3 to get back into the series. So, Zach, please show us a little bit of just sort of from your perspective as an analyst, what you're seeing.
It starts with their offense, which has been terrible in the series, and it starts with just being purposeful. So here's Drew Holiday as Kyrie Irving, and he calls for a switch for a better defender, Bruce Brown, going into this pick and roll. And one thing that that's done really well, they're dropping way back and saying, Drew Holiday, you got to either attack us or make pull-up jumpers. And here's another one. You get a bunch of switches going on, and here's Drew Holiday saying, Nick Claxton's one of the best switch defenders in the entire NBA. If you're going to ever give the ball to Bobby Portis in the paint, it's right now. This is horrible. No one's moving. No one's doing anything. You're not going to. That is a way to lose a basketball game. Chris Middleton on Joe Harris. Joe Harris is a wildly underrated defender. This is not a mismatch. And look at how the Nets load up. So all the passing lanes are gone except that one. And Giannis' paint touches are nice, but Giannis' floaters aren't winning you the series. Here's another ISO against the Clex. You have Landry Shaman in the corner waiting to be attacked, the weakest link. They just haven't been purposeful enough. They need to do more stuff like this. Back screen for Giannis, mix it up a little bit. Get the Nets to switch into bad matchups, target their bad defenders. No accident that he got a dunk out of that. They're just sort of meandering with no purpose, with no aim. They're ignoring the weakest link on the other team, whereas the Nets are ruthlessly picking on the weakest link on their team. They just need to have more. It's not just the ISOs and the passing, which have been bad. It's the process leading to those ISOs and the lack of passing.
Well, I think, in my opinion, I hate it because I'm sounding like my coaches from back in the day. It starts on the defensive end.
It does.
Zach, to your point, you see them kind of staggering around on offense, not really get into their things. A huge portion of their offense is getting the Greek freak out in space to where he can operate, attack the paint, put the other team in foul trouble, and then they start their kick and pass game. That's where I think they're most effective. And if they're not getting stops, if you're not getting stops against the Brooklyn Nets, if KD is scoring 36 points in a game off of 18 shots, you're probably not going to win that game. They're going to have to go back to their basics, back to being, they're in their identity, and they're going to have to show some toughness and just get stops and play out in the open court, get those open threes, get everybody involved. That's going to be a necessity for them. We'll definitely see how they respond tonight, because sometimes your back has to be against the wall to respond accordingly. So I feel that this is their moment of truth. We'll see how they respond.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a team that had designs on being elite, getting to the NBA Finals, winning an NBA championship. They've been good in their own building. They have a two-time MVP. You have to expect them to punch back tonight. I do have to ask you, Zach, though, is Mike Budenholzer coaching for his job in this series?
I mean, if I had to guess, based on what I've heard and what I've read, absolutely. And particularly if they get rolled, if they just get rolled, if Game 3 looks anything like Game 2 and this is a short series, I do think there's going to have to be changes somewhere in Milwaukee, and that's the most obvious place to look.
And look, the main criticism of him has been he's an excellent coach, but he has not shown the ability to adjust mid-series during the playoffs the way some of the coaches he's been going against have. Now, he did a lot of adjusting during the regular season. We did not see those adjustments in game or even between games, between 1 and 2. And meanwhile, Steve Nash, who is a rookie head coach, I think has done a phenomenal coaching job.
I agree. And we did see, in Bud's defense, we saw those regular season adjustments pay off against Miami. And he did change his starting 5 for this series. But this is, I think Chris put it right. I don't think it's dramatic to say. This is a moment of truth for the Bucks organization, the Bucks team, the Bucks coaching staff. They have to win this game.
Interesting. Well, the Nets defensively, look, they took a lot of heat during the regular season from people questioning, is their defense going to be there? Can you win a championship with a defense like this? Brooklyn has answered those questions, people. They have held Milwaukee to 44% from the field, 25% from 3 so far in the series, which is a big deal since Milwaukee was so good from 3 during the regular season. Quick update here. James Harden, not a surprise, been ruled out for Game 3, continuing to battle hamstring issues. Zach, what do you think has been the key to the Nets improving their defense so much and stepping up in the playoffs?
I just think the level of communication and talking is elite. They're engaged. They have active hands. They're helping each other. The rotations are on point. And this is what they did in games 1 and 2 against Boston. They went out and proved we have a gear we can get to where maybe we're not elite, but we're decent, we're good, and with our offense, decent, we're winning the championship with decent. And then they kind of took their foot off the gas against Boston. Right. Their foot is right back on the gas. And by the way, when they play Bruce Brown and Claxton and KD and Joe Harris together, that's the skeleton of a really good defense. All those guys are really good defenders, and the story of the playoffs, or among them, has been Kevin Durant has just been otherworldly on both ends of the floor, and his defense has been all NBA level defense. They've been playing really, really good basketball on both ends.
I know, by the way, that the big stars on Brooklyn's team are fun to watch, and there's so many of them, even without James on the floor. But if you're a basketball fan, watch Nick Claxton. He is so much fun to watch play basketball, especially defensively, the way he scampers around. I hope that he gets a little bit more shine during this postseason. And it is interesting to see how a team that the whole season we were like, we all know that they can buckle down when they really want to, has in fact buckled down when they really want to. LeBron James teams have done that for a long time. Now, Chris, I know that defensively, right when you guys got together down in Miami, Pat Riley held that training camp, Eric Spoelstra on a military base, and you guys only did defensive drills for the first couple days. But then as the seasons wore on in Miami, I assume there was that feeling of, hey, we all know how good we are. We can turn it up a notch when it counts, right?
I mean, you know, there's a mode to that, but there's also a mode to bringing it when it's time to bring it. You definitely want to spend a whole season practicing these habits defensively. That's where the Nets are going to have their challenge. But if you have 5 guys on a string, if you have guys that are motivated, and like you were saying, and Kevin Durant is playing at an all-NBA defensive level. He doesn't get enough credit as being a two-way player. He's an extremely tough defender. So if he's buying in, if you see your best player, guarding the other best player, and then on top of that, Blake Griffin diving on the floor for loose balls, getting those tough rebounds, put back dunks, those are the things that you would think the other teams would beat them in. So if the Brooklyn Nets are winning those tough categories, those second chance points, rebounding, and like you said, just playing decent defense, they have enough firepower to where they just have to try. If they try, they give themselves a chance.
I love you mentioning Blake, too, by the way. Obviously, he has some stuff to prove personally, not to any of us, but it just seems like to him, right? It seemed important to him that people understand that what happened in Detroit for the past couple seasons was the result of definitely some injury issues and just being on a team where there weren't as many good players around him. And he is able to show now, not just the dunks, not just the offense that he's provided them without Harden in there, but defensively. He's going up against Giannis a lot of these possessions, and he has been looking really, really strong. And I know that has